Well, thanks, Jeremiah, so much for taking some time to walk through uh, some of your story of what life has looked like for the refuge, and the things about that. So if you want to just go ahead and give us a brief recap of like where's the refuge, what's your role there, and just kind of in general, what's maybe a little bit about the city that you're in.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, Jeremiah Holcomb, pastor of the Refuge. My wife and I moved to Eudora, Kansas, August 1st of 2015. The work began here, so almost 5 years. The town of Eudora is a bedroom community between Lawrence, Kansas, and Kansas City, closer to Lawrence. It's a bedroom community that doubled in size between 1990 and 2014 in those census. And so I'm excited to see the new census reports that come out because our town's continued to grow. But it's a quaint community that is full of multi-generational families. And so the exciting thing is like our church is not a large church, but on any given Sunday morning, about 40% of our attendance is under the age of 12. And so it's been really neat. We've been able to address our community and the aspects that are there. But yeah, the church is 4.5 years old. My wife and I are still here and together and doing the work, and it's
Good
exciting.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit about, for maybe those that don't know, just a little bit of the journey when you first got called to church planting. You're talking 2014, 2015, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the fall of 2014. I'd been on the board of the Christian Evangelizing Association of Kansas for 3 years, and they had money to plant a church that whole time, but they couldn't find a planter. And we were in a wonderful ministry that was growing and thriving in Burlington, Kansas, um, and got to be a part of that ministry. And so I'd come home from those meetings and Megan would ask, "How'd the meeting go?" Great. We need to continue to pray. At the time, we wanted to plant a church in Hays, Kansas. And so, we need to keep asking that God will send someone to Hays, Kansas. Well, the site committee in the fall of 2014 at one of their meetings came and said, "Look, we've got money. We need to plant a church. And if location's the problem, there's 6 churches in Kansas that could use a church yesterday." And that affected me. I went home and I prayed different because for the first time, my narrow-mindedness had to grow. And instead of praying for a church plant, I realized we need to be praying for churches and planters. And so that made me look at our situation. By that time, 3 years down the road, our situation, the church continued to grow, as did our family. And we were at a place where we were looking at, do we want to spend, I don't want my kids to grow up in multiple schools and locations. We kind of had a heartbeat to call a community home so that our family can latch to that. And our youngest son finished his kindergarten year, the 2014 to 2015 year. And so we thought if there was a time to move, it would be then. And so actually we used an anniversary in December of 2014 was our 10th anniversary as a married couple. And we used that to consider 3 things. We looked at, well, is that a time to go ahead and look at rebuilding another old church, or do we want to plant a church, or do we stay in Burlington, a community that we loved, but a community that wasn't growing? And its number one employer or business in the community that employed over 1,000 people in a town of 2,900 is a nuclear power plant that is in the last handful of years of its contract. So, there's a risk that it could even lose a lot of people. And so, I wasn't necessarily wanting to commit my life to that. So we just saw an opportunity there. And once we linked arms with Nexus, they assessed us in February then of 2015. And when they approved us, we had a hard conversation that wasn't too hard that basically said if the CEA of Kansas doesn't approve us for this plant to come to Eudora, Kansas, then we'd probably move to Texas and plant with Nexus. So that was a rough season in our life because we're going, oh crud, what did we just say? God has a way to move us now. But it's kind of neat because we love Burlington. We love the ministry we were in, but the opportunity for growth, when people are your commodity, it's great to be in a place where things are growing and changing.
Awesome. So what is so it's been a few years. Obviously, 2020 has been a little crazy, but backing up maybe pre-COVID, BC 19. Um, what has been the journey for the Refuge? What are some of the highlights for you personally, or what do you love most about just the process of planting a church?
Yeah, yeah. Really, my favorite thing is putting yourself back in the place of vulnerability and of trust. Our favorite prayer from day one has always been, God, send us people that we need and the people that need us. And we can name a few people that we were able to recruit and get to come to the Refuge, but the people that God has sent us, and I mean, just simple, weird things. First week that we were in town, for instance, um, people knew who we were because the realtor had said the new pastor's buying the house. So 2 doors down, a lady, our neighbor 2 doors down, came to our house, knocked on the door, said that her grandmother had passed away in Old Mexico, and she wasn't going to be able to get down there and see her, and wanted to know if we would pray with her. And that morning, Megan and I had been praying, is this community going to receive our ministry? And so that family became the first family to link arms with us and say they want to help us plant the Refuge Christian Church. Um, just little things like that. I could just name families that my wife met at a park, just play dates with kids, and they would, new church, well, they'd grill her about the church, and then they wanted to join our launch team, and so apparently she answered the questions correctly. But you look at those, but really the dynamic things have then just been the transformation, the life change that we've been able to be a part of. Couple that started worshiping with us. Actually, an individual worshiped with us, Wes, and his wife was recovering from some addiction, and they had a child that was also an addiction, and just had a rough patch in their marriage, and they were talking ending it, and really, I've never encouraged that, but ministered to him through that. And over time, she moved in with her mom for a while, but came back, and they wanted to reconcile and help them with that. And their marriage is back together, and they're doing well. And that's been for probably 18 months now. So that's, things like that are highly encouraging. And then, of course, obviously faith decisions and seeing people grow. And so, which, we've had 22 baptisms, which isn't a ton for 5 years, but, that's a lot of lives that we've been able to touch and impact. And we're excited to see what God continues to do here.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. Well, with 2020 being the way that it is, do you have a more recent kind of God story, just kind of throughout this process that's been all of the quarantine and not being able to meet, or different things of that nature, whether it's directly related to that or maybe just something totally different? What's been something this year that you've just seen God's hand in your ministry?
Sure. It's a beautiful thing sometimes when we're forced to hit pause. You think of the disciples that had to wait in Jerusalem before the Holy Spirit came on them and they could go be witnesses. And, for 13 weeks, I preached to a camera. This last Sunday, we opened our doors again, June 14th. And, in that waiting period, we had a little attrition. We had a couple families that let us know they're no longer going to be a part of the Refuge. And for various reasons, and of course, that happens in every church under the sun, but as a pastor, you take some of that personally. But the neat thing is that through this, we had to reinvent ourselves a little bit as a church. We were not live streaming services or things like that prior to COVID, so we had to up our game in some of those areas, and we did. And so when we opened our doors yesterday, we had 48 people back, and we averaged mid-70s before COVID. And so we had 48 people, and of those 48 people, 13 of them were first-time visitors. And one of the families, which was, the widow of a funeral that I recently did, and her two children and their spouses and kids, they came, and I just stayed in touch with them through COVID, grieving their loss. I was bummed how kind of the funeral home and that whole process served them, but I wanted to make sure that to serve them well. I'm going to be marrying, actually one of the couples aren't married yet, and I'm going to be doing their wedding. It was canceled because it was scheduled for May, and I'm now going to marry them in September. They're going through premarital counseling. And so those are the little things that just by being faithful, I think that's the thing. And really the biggest God story is I think God worked on me through this process. Just the statement in Brandon Cook's book, Learning to Live and Love Like Jesus, of the reminder. It's a Dallas Willard quote, really, that was the eye opener of, radically, I think that was the word he used, remove hurry from your life. And I struggle sometimes with just being present, whether it's with my wife and my kids, or even sometimes on Sunday morning, I get so caught up in the rush of the performance and all of that I miss just enjoying the people. So this last Sunday, I was so thankful just to, enjoy those 48 individuals that chose to be there in person. And we live streamed the service. First time we did that, we'd been pre-recording and uploading them, but now that we're back in person, we're going with a live stream format. So we're excited. I think that going forward, but really that was the biggest change, was in me just having to stop and to analyze where I was, and I've overvalued some things and undervalued other more important things like people, and certainly wanted to correct that.
Yeah, man. I mean, just especially during this season, you get a time to just pause, a forced time to pause and reflect on everything that we do, just even as church leaders and ministers. What do you think? Well, obviously, you mentioned that love for people and focus on that and what that means. Is there anything else that you feel like, man, this really shifted the way that we think about our ministry here at the Refuge, that you're going to be carrying with you as you move into kind of this relaunch phase, or even as you go forward in ministry for months and years to come?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. With that, so often we get so hung up on numbers, and it's embarrassing sometimes when you look at this. I mean, planning a church, if we've done anything well, we've attracted a lot of unchurched people at the Refuge. And so, summer's always been hard to get small groups to continue in the summer. It's been like, you just laugh. We only had one small group that continued with Zoom. The others just decided that because of kid chaos and other things that they didn't do it. But I've been able to start a study with a couple guys going through Mark's Gospel that is really exciting. We're still doing that via Zoom. One of them's a fireman and his wife's a nurse practitioner, and kind of worried about what they might give to other people. And so we're going to continue that on Zoom for a while. Hopefully by the end of it, we can be back in person. But I think that there's going to be a shift even in what small groups look like for the Refuge Christian Church. Hopefully more of them and smaller in number over time. But even with that, I've also learned that it's not about the number of them. It's about doing them right and taking the time. And so, I even thought Sunday you had 48. Well, we had 43 people on our launch team by December of 2015. We'd been here 4.5 months that we got to say yes to us. And from that, we planted the church. And so, I think that, our launch team looks different, and but relaunching is what we're doing. And with that, I haven't shared yet, but we relaunched in a new space. So we're in a brand new location for us, and with a new time, because we're now renting a church. We were renting a school, and the middle school in town. Now we're renting a church, and so our service used to be at 10:30. But it was fun. 2 years ago, we shared with the church that we wanted to grow to 2 services. We wanted a 9 a.m. service and a 10:30 service. Well, 10:30 is not an option, but 9 a.m. is. And so we just went to our first service. And so we'd always been in our second service. And now we're ready to teach people about our first service. And we're excited. I think the receptivity, the community is still strong on us because of our people's love for the community and our ability to serve it well. And that's, those have been some of the other things that we've done that I'm excited about continuing to leverage as we go forward.
Good, man. What's life in ministry been like just for your family? I mean, I know that you have a great ministry just even amongst your household, and what that is for those that don't know, maybe share a brief snippet of what that has been like. But as far as your wife and her role at the church and her paid or unpaid role of just being amazing at your church, what's that been like?
Yeah, she's certainly underpaid. Her $0 a month or week or whatever it isn't near enough. But my wife is a kindergarten teacher in town, Megan, and she is also overseeing our kids ministry currently, and just been proud of her for that. Again, our highest impact ministry as far as number of people volunteering, and so she coordinates all of that and has done a great job with that. Very proud of her. So 2 years ago this summer, we decided to add a wrinkle to our ministry by doing foster care and becoming foster parents. And so we have two boys biologically, an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. And so Titus is going to middle school this next year, and Asher is going to be a third grader. And our boys have just blossomed in this community. They love Eudora. Eudora loves them. And they're well connected with friends. And so that's been exciting and encouraging for us. And our three foster sons that we've had now for a year and 4 months, we've got a sibling set of three brothers that has a potential for being permanently with us via adoption. And so we'll let the courts continue to work themselves out. But that actually has added a challenging wrinkle to our ministry. Prior to adding 3 extra kids, we were invited in a lot more homes, and we're able to be more social with people. We still invite and host a lot of things and have people over. But it's actually neat. We did have a family that invited us to their place, all 7 of us, just a couple weeks ago, ate dinner in their backyard, and the kids played, and that was a huge blessing. And so that's been neat. God is blessing us with friendship. He's blessing us with community as we're doing crazy ministry in the home and outside the home. But my wife is awesome. I married up. I outpunted my coverage, and she, watching her work with our kids, she's a kindergarten teacher, watching her work in her classroom at the school, just humbled by her and her labor of love for kids and their parents, and just the community at large.
Very cool, man. She still likes you through this whole process?
Well, we got to have a lunch date yesterday. We're getting childcare once a week so that she can kind of have a day off in the summer here. That's a lot, having 5 boys at home all day, every day. And so we're thankful for that. We got to have lunch yesterday, and then we started doing dance lessons together via video. And
wow.
So we were dancing in our living room last night as well. So just a couple times. We're not great dancers. We look awkward and feel awkward, but we're enjoying each other. And I still think the best is still to come 15 years into our marriage. So thanks for asking.
That's great, man. Very cool. Well, yeah, man, is there anything else? I'm not sure if we hit everything. I really appreciate you taking some time to walk through what ministry's been like. Maybe just anything, gratitude, or what's life been like, maybe just with Nexus in general,
Yeah.
the partnership with Nexus and kind of that relationship. What's been good, hard, and all that type of stuff through that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because really, when when we first looked into church planting, uh, we heard a lot of comments like giving birth is easier than raising the dead. And we really felt like our last ministry was a dead raising ministry. What do I mean by that? The church was planted in 1860. Kansas was founded in 1861. Okay, so this is a church that was a year older than the state of Kansas. It's always been here. And they've done things certain ways, and I followed a guy that retired from ministry. He'd been there 18 years, and they were positioned well. They had great leadership. They just needed a catalyst to help them lead through the change. So we felt like we got to be a part of a raising the dead ministry. The church was of good size when we got there, and it doubled in our 6 years that we were there. And so it was just a fun season for us to get to be a part of something like that. So we thought, hey, if giving birth is really easier than raising the dead, then we certainly went into that, because raising the dead was tough. And so we've just found out that both are hard. But this is what I'll say about partnering with Nexus. And I love the Christian Evangelizing Association of Kansas as well. The drastic difference is they're a bunch of volunteer ministers that are trying to minister to you in their extra time. And in ministry, there is no extra time. And so what we've been able to get through Nexus, their training a couple times a year, their family reunions, the coaching and the mentoring, which starts with weekly calls, goes to biweekly, then becomes monthly. And then, we're at the stage of as needed calls. And but those things, I can say that for the first time in my ministry, the last almost 5 years, I've never felt a season where I've done this alone. And I've never been ministered to like I've been ministered to in this season. Again, those trainings are a key piece of that. It's kind of a handheld, forced way to say you're going to grow, because we need that. And sometimes as pastors in that hurried life that, some of you guys are more mature than I am and have been doing that a lot longer. But I'm just so thankful for just the support when things have been hard, not feeling alone. Difficult things. We've had an elder that broke up his marriage and 2 marriages in the church in our small time as a church, and we had to grieve through that. We've just dealt with some boogers that every church has, and man, I felt like we were able to do those things without skipping many beats because of the support that we have, the phone calls we were able to make, just the care and the fraternity, for lack of better word, that is the brotherhood between the church planners that we have. I mean, it truly is community and a sense of love and care for each other's ministries, because we get to see that it's not about the local church in specific, but the advancement of the kingdom in general. And we're able to be a part of that together. So to me, that's been the huge blessing. Everything from Golf Course Road and getting to be in host homes when we go and meet out in Midland, to just the trips to Dallas, and even now to Denver and other places for our Think Next conferences. It's a huge part. I don't intend to miss any of them. And can't wait to meet again with everybody and see what God's continuing to do in other areas.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much again for taking time out of your busy week and everything that's going on right now. We're just grateful for the relationship that you have with Nexus, grateful for your ministry out there in Eudora, Kansas. Just grateful personally for the friendship that we have, and just pray that God continues to bless you in your ministry.
Yeah, and likewise you, Andrew. Proud of you, bud. And thank you, Nexus and the Nexus family, for taking shots on little guys in the middle of nowhere, Kansas is. And, everybody needs the Lord, and we can't wait to see the next plant happen and what God continues to do. So we'll see you guys again soon. And thanks for taking the time with me, Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks, man.